Next level expectation.
That's right. You can find Deveo at Deveo Okorie on social media. Sitting beside him is Adedumade. Good morning, Adedumade.
Good morning, guys. Good morning, Lagos.
Adedumade is at Adedumade on Twitter. And then of course we have Mr. G Quest himself on Twitter. Gbolahan.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Valentine.
Good
and
morning,
good morning, Lagos.
Welcome.
All right, now if you'd like to join our conversation as our analyst offline, you can join via these platforms.
All right, please send your messages to WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. If you want to tweet at Smith981FM. Use that hashtag freshlypressed981. We're streaming live on YouTube. You can leave a message there using the live chat option there.
All right, let's go straight into our first story. Federal government negotiates with US, France for return of stolen $500 million. Punch has this news headline. Now, worthy of note is that the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami Ese, said yesterday that negotiations were ongoing for the return of $500 million worth of assets located in the United States, island of Jersey, and France. Now, out of this, $322.5 million allegedly stolen by the then head of state, General Sani Abacha. What do you have to say about this, Gbolahan?
Yes, this is another, stolen funds that is being recovered by the federal government. We give credit to the government for the recovery of these assets that has been lost for so many years in offshore accounts and then generating revenue for other economies rather than actually impacting the lives of Nigerians. So this article, this was a handover ceremony that was done by the Minister of Justice, that's Abubakar Malami.
Yes.
This is the transition period where all the cabinet members has to give an account of what they've been able to achieve over the last 4 years of their office. And he's giving an account of what he's been able to achieve. Part of those achievements, just as you mentioned, is the recovery of $322 million from the Abacha loot. He's talking about another $59 million which has been recovered. There's another mention of a $73 million that has been recovered from the under the instruction of the United Kingdom Commercial Court.
Yeah.
These were proceeds from the sale of the OPL 245 by Malibu Oil to Eni. I mean, this scandal, the Malibu scandal has been going on for several years. In fact, 2 people have been convicted in Italy for this crime. But in Nigeria, we're yet to see any convictions of any persons that were involved in the Malibu scam. Now, it talks about all these monies that have been recovered and then goes on further to talk about the $500 million that is still in process of being recovered. And just as you mentioned, the recovery, these loot or assets are based in the United States, island of Jersey, and France.
Yes.
So we're looking at $500 million for us to recover that back. And, just as he said, most of all these recoveries that has occurred in the past has been spent one way or the other by the government. And the account that has been given is that, of course, this money that has been recovered, this is his quote by Malami, this is to ensure the monies that have been recovered and the international engagement that they're having with several countries is to ensure all assets stolen from Nigeria are returned for the development of schools, power and health sectors, and to reduce poverty through funding of social investment programs. Now I would ask, previous sums that have been recovered, the Abacha loot that has been recovered, how much of it has actually been used as infrastructure investment for schools and whatnot? What we get is that most of these monies have been shared across the states and they've been used to pay salaries.
Which some are still owing, by the way.
Which some are still owing. So the question you'll be asking now is that when these $500 million do come back, what exactly are we going to be using it for? Are we going to be spending it judiciously, or is it going to be spent for largesse?
Jayo.
I mean,
it's exciting.
it's unfortunate.
Confirm on the theory that the more you give black people money, the worse they become. Fortunately,
did you say black people money?
Yes.
No, Deveo.
Unfortunately, Nigeria has proven that, because up till now, if you can give a historical account of all the money that was returned, not just Abacha loot, but loot from other instances, Nigeria has not been the better for it. I challenge government from state, local government to the federal to point out just even the Paris Fund refund. That was a refund. We couldn't even make good on that.
Well, the Abacha loot that you asked, answering your question, the Abacha loot, $322 million. You recall that at a point they said they were going to transfer those funds to 302,000 poor homes. To begin in 2000.
Sound bites.
Yes. Well,
sound bites.
Maybe what Nigerians are looking for is evidence of the fact that this
road,
money,
schools.
yes, transparency and evidence. All right, thank you very much. Adedumade, I'll come to you for this. You've been quite quiet. Maybe money doesn't really interest you. Bigger things. Right. House Senator Melaye escaped from police and law, of course, from police custody, says witness. So this report is from the Vanguard newspaper. And prosecution witness Sergeant Alao Mohammed, a police officer, has given a witness statement to the court as to, in detail, actually plays out like a movie, how Senator Dino Melaye escaped from police custody last year while being transported to Lokoja from Abuja. Please tell us a little bit about this story.
Yes, a number of us saw the video back then. It trended actually on social media, where we saw Senator Dino, where he was on the floor saying he was going to kill himself. And this happened sometime in April. He was taken to court eventually, and it was granted a 5 million naira bail. And this act that he's being charged with is said to contradict section 148, 153, 173, 231, 326, and 327 of the Penal Code. But the first thing I'm going to note is that one of the charges is for attempted suicide.
That was the one that I flagged off as well.
Yes, attempted suicide. Now, that should not be a crime in Nigeria in this day and age. People... Yeah, the attempt. In fact, I have an article that says your attempted suicide had better be successful, because if it's not successful, then you go to jail. So, which is actually worse for the person. I know dying can never be
better.
Yeah, it can be better, but neither is going to jail, because you can as well do it again while you're there. So I think the law has to put into important or take into statements that people who attempt suicide actually need to be cared for. They need to be given some kind of mental, not that you take them to jail or you want to arrest them. Then I remember something just in regard to this topic. When some other people tried to commit suicide, they were said to be anti-democratic and they were arrested. But when someone else climbed a very high pole in support of someone else, the person was applauded. I think we also need to pay attention to double standards. However, back to the issue of Senator Melaye. Now, the thing is, I watched the video and I watched it again this morning. There's this part of the testimony where the witness says that he held something in his hands and he said he was going to drink it. And I watched the video. Senator Dino's hands were plain. There was nothing in his hands. So I'm wondering where that part of what they are saying comes from. Also, during cross-examination, the prosecuting counsels refused to accept the witness statement of the officer that was in the witness box. Now, what he wrote on that day is now contradicting what he is saying. So I think we need to shed more light on this issue, because something seems to be going on here within the police force.
But it's important to also note that the statement that was presented by the defendant wasn't certified.
Was not certified, yes, and it was on that
court
ground that it was not admitted by the judge. So fine, let's see when it is certified. Let's see what that statement says. But generally, Senator Dino, the legend, like we heard in the song, has always been controversial. And let's see what comes out of this trial at the end of the day.
Thank you very much. It's been adjourned to September 11, 18, and October 3rd.
Now, September 11 from last week. That is a long adjournment. One of the problems we have in court systems today.
I wish the media would shine more light on people who daily need media attention on their court cases. They're not dramatic, controversial folks like Dino. They have capacity, they have competence, they have clout. Let's give it to those there are many people lounging in prison for, what do you call it again? They've not
Jail?
been, no, they've not been
Attempted
charged.
Awaiting
Waiting
trial, yes.
They need media attention.
Thank you very much, Ivo.
not Superman
Well
Dino.
noted.
I even have
Well
one client.
noted.
And
Thank
Alright.
you very much.
The next story is from
That's
New
it.
Telegraph. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) has announced the arrest of one Frank Chinedu, alleged to be operating an internet fraud school. I would like to use that precisely because the headline reads of a brand repeated twice. We already know the colloquial term that's being referred to. I just find it to be poor journalism. But anyway, the commission also apprehended 8 persons suspected to be students of the school. Please take us through the story, Gbolahan, especially highlighting the items that were recovered and possible punitive measures to be meted out on these individuals.
Well, yes, this arrest was made on the 22nd of May, and allegedly they were said to have been perpetrating internet fraud, and this is the teacher of that school, apparently, or the proprietor of the school, is Frank Chinedu, who is allegedly 22 years of age, and the rest of the guys that were also arrested were between the ages of 21 and 29. The 8 other people who were meant to be students of that school. So, I mean, this sends a lot of message about the age range of the people that are perpetrating such heinous crimes. And the arrest was made at an address 14 Animashaun Street, somewhere in Ojoduberga in Lagos.
Yeah.
And I mean, EFCC has actually claimed that the arrest was made through they were given intelligence. And they swung into action and did the arrest. And the items that were found on them were 9 laptops, 16 mobile phones, an internet modem, Wi-Fi, and a Toyota Camry as well. The one question that I would like to ask is because according to the spokesperson to the EFCC, he's actually said that they will be charged to court after they have concluded their investigation. The question I would like to ask is, how much investigation have they done before this arrest?
I also have a question.
Yes.
Regarding this continuous clampdown on or rather perpetrators of internet fraud, I understand that it's a crime. We all know it's a crime. Internet fraud is frowned upon in every part of the world.
Absolutely.
But what would you like to see, coming up from this trend? What would you like the security operatives to? What line would you prefer them to toe? Because my thought process is just telling me, how about we, set example. So that other people, this will act as a precedent to other people who might be tempted to go into the very attractive, whatever criminal activity. How about harnessing the skills of IT proficiency and maybe encouraging them to join co-creation hubs or some sort of things like that, just to harness those skills instead of using it for negative ends, move it into positive
and earn how much?
endeavors.
That's the question. It's a very valid statement that you've made, because just as I said, I mean, when we look at the age of these people that are perpetrating this crime, they are very young people, and there's a reason for them perpetrating such crimes. Yes, they are highly talented, they're very skilled at what they do, and the environment that we find ourselves in hasn't actually created the avenue for them to be able to express themselves adequately.
The environment actually crowns thieving. The environment emulates and exalts corruption, and that is why the youth have taken to what they have seen, as they have seen ahead of them. So I think the EFCC should focus on the real perpetrators.
Because why are people sent to prison? What's the main reason?
It's correction. For correction. Yes.
Do we have correctional facilities here?
I won't call that a correctional facility.
I went to Quirky on a tour once, and trust me, that place doesn't correct anything.
All right.
It hardens people, in fact.
Because we say the countries, the leaders of tomorrow are the youth.
Yeah, but just to sum it up anyway, just as I've said, how much investigation have they done? Because we've seen so many times where EFCC has swung into action, and at the end of the day, they've not been able to prove their case to a logical conclusion.
No, they
It's
prove
happened
for
so many
smaller
times.
crimes like this. It's the big ones that we don't see any conviction.
Well, let's wait and see the outcome
All
of
right.
this.
Thank you, Gbolahan.
We take some comments. Low Key Swags on Twitter says the attitude we experience on the part of politicians is no surprise at all. Checks on their excesses are almost non-existent. Malami and the federal government should please give us concrete plans of how the $500 million will be used to affect the lives of the masses. Shikena. And one more from Kasim.
Kasim says, "Good morning, guys. Please let the Akuman express it the way it is. Nigeria is a fourth of the black continent, and we have proven that we have issues. Our system is completely flawed. The ruling class needs to be put out there, and we have to make sure something is done to stop them."
All right, thank you very much for your comments. Adedumade, I'll come back to you for the next one. INEC begins national conversation on electoral reform in June. Now, it's a detailed report from this day newspaper, as they mentioned that being dissatisfied with the do-or-die attitude of political actors, INEC have decided to hold conversations around the nation to possibly, look at an electoral reform or present a report on electoral reform. However, I mean, if you look at how detailed it is, they talk about how they're going to do it, which I hope you talk to us about. But I would like you to answer this question, Adedumade. Do we want more conversations or less conversations and more action?
Well, I'm going to say from the beginning that we want more action. For instance, according to the story, over the last 40 years, virtually all elections have been accompanied by one report of one committee or the other, including from 1986, 2008, 2011, 2017. There was one in 2015 and 2017 again. So cumulatively, we've had a lot of reports. But one thing I would not appreciate is when all these reports and all these conversations come together into a bill that becomes an act, but does not get to be signed by the president, because that's what we saw in the last election. He refused to sign the Electoral Amended Act on the grounds that it will shake things up too much before the election. Well, fine. I just hope he signs it immediately. Now, there are some things that we must note going towards 2023. One, the INEC chairman here has complained about the do-or-die attitude by politicians. Truthfully, INEC cannot do anything about that, and they should not even bother trying to waste their energy on that. What they should do rather is take away the power from the politicians. For instance, this is how we vote. We go to the unit, we cast our votes, and everything is collated there. That is where the problem is. It is easy for touts to come and disrupt the process, and when they disrupt the process, everything gets cancelled. There should be multiple options for voting, right? I remember when I lived in the UK while I was doing my master's, and I saw someone was voting via mail, like a letter. The person, I was really tripped because that blew my mind. I was like, via mail, as you're voting via mail. It was absolutely new to me. So these are some of the options we need to start to do. One, electronic voting. I don't need to go to the polling booth before I vote. I should be able to vote.
Out issues with going to the polls to vote, and then shouldn't we start by dealing with the issues that we currently have?
Let us start. Look, we'll always have problems no matter what we do, but let us start early with new ideas so that we can learn on the way. For instance, now you have my BVN, right? You can find a way to tie that into the voting process to ensure that I don't vote twice. And it is easier when the banks do these things, but when it's time for should I say the government today, it now becomes very difficult. We had something that had to do with the NIMSI. In fact, we have discussed that particular issue here many times. Yes, that did not go forward. That should have been able to help. So I was just going to say, one, electronic voting, it is needed. Collation of results, the way we're counting 1, 2, 3, no, man, that we cannot continue to do that.
This is all contained in the electoral reform bill.
Yes, now that is the last point I'm going to make about the electoral reform bill. It contains a lot of things. It talks about party affiliations. It talks about vote collation. It talks about the order of the elections. It talks about voter registration. It talks about the voting list. It talks about overvoting. It talks about so many things, man. And I believe that we should just first sign that bill into law,
Yes.
then we can start to act on that while we now continue having conversations. But Nigeria, we like to talk and talk and talk, but do nothing.
All right, this message is from Audi from Akute. He said the FCC should just take these kids in and train them to be part of the system. That is what the American system would do.
Catch me if you can.
Is the Nigerian system. Let's share the story from the Guardian newspaper, and this is for you, Deveo. Now, the Imo State Imo Assembly Speaker resigns. That's what the headline reads. Speaker of the Imo State House of Assembly, Acho Ichim, resigned yesterday. He tendered his resignation letter to the clerk of the House, Chris. Do you remember that he was suspended, or rather, he had suspended 21 out of 27 lawmakers for absconding with the mace after reading the letter announcing the lifting of suspension on the 27 local government chairmen by the state lawmakers. Well, take us through the story. And the
yes, there is some history to it, and it looks like a comic. This is the Imo State House of Commotion, for the lack of a better word. Now, what happened, as we do know, their most controversial governor, Rocha, has had his own people in the assembly. So at some point during the elections, with the apathy, they lost many of the seats to the opposition. That was PDP, APGA, and ANN. So more or less, opposition took over. Now, the opposition did ask, that's the new assembly, did ask the local government chairman to come and render accounts of the expenditure, of which none of them showed up, which is where the suspension came in. So the sitting speaker, who was on the governor's side, quickly made a last deft move to reinstate those local government chairmen, of which they rebelled against. And obviously he knew, I mean, it's inauguration today. There's not much time left to do damage. So he's resigned. But we're hoping that as the new governor comes into Imo State, many have fasted and prayed. Many have gone on days of meditation.
Are you one of them? You speak with a lot of authority.
Yes, because Imo is a great state. There's so much gold and jewelry lying in Imo State. It's incredible that they got, I don't know, some people, I don't know how to describe him. Rochas has left an infamous legacy for Imo State, and I hope they're able to recover within the next 4 years as they gather from abroad and local to make Imo what it was, make Imo great again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, I'll go to Adedumade for the next story here. Insecurity, preferential posting, major obstacles against the NYSC. Now, this is from the Director General, Shraibo Ibrahim. What is mentioned seem like very obvious things that have plagued or almost brought down or watered down the effect of the NYSC. But please, can you take us through the story?
Okay, first of all, I would like to say one thing I appreciated about my 3 weeks camp was meeting people from different parts of Nigeria. Like people I don't think I'll have ever met if I did not go to camp. And I learned of schools that I never heard of. Like, which school are you from? One school in Imo, one school in Abia, one school in the north. You know, and it was actually really great to meet all these people. I think it is wonderful. Now, on the issue of insecurity, there is no way a copper is going to want to go to a place that is insecure, because when they get there, their lives is not even protected, their property is not protected, so they are on their own. Now, no way anybody is going to want to do that. Now, with regard to the scheme in itself, generally, I don't believe that these single things are just one of the major challenges. In fact, NYC in itself has a lot of challenges. Like that, for instance, I think the whole 1 year thing is a waste of time. 3 weeks in camp, wonderful. I don't mind. That is great. But anything after that, I
Why
think
do you say that? Because I know
lots
of people are going to come for you for that statement, saying that the 1 year is a waste of time.
Yeah, they can come for me.
So saying they should scrap it?
In one sentence.
I am not saying they should scrap it totally. I'm saying they should reform it.
All right.
For instance, after that 3 week period, the money you're going to spend giving this person
a monthly salary,
for about 11 months, and all the things that is going to entail, why don't you just put it together and give that person a business grant and tell the person, you know what, take this cash and do something with it.
All Nigerian young people businessmen?
Now, that is why I said you use a reform system. Not everybody might want that option. Some might prefer, okay, I want another option. I want a research grant. You know, you can even do that as well. But when you're just saying, okay, let's all just spend 1 year together, I think it's just a waste of time. There's a lot more we can do with the money that is going into NYC. I will have said scrap the 3 weeks, but people will not agree.
Bengals says the type of internet fraud perpetrated by these lazy youths does not require any serious IT proficiency. It's about hoodwinking their victims. Hence, the country would not derive any benefit whatsoever from the deal. From it, deal with them decisively to deter others. And Chika Gina sent in this one.
It says the police witness to Dino appears more hilarious than Nollywood script writers. How can one jump out of a moving vehicle and damage 2 vehicles? And when a judge throws away this case on basis of lack of substance, we begin to cry foul.
And this other one here from Moses from Beggar says most of the internet fraudsters have no real digital skills. They just use deception to scam people of their money. Also, EFCC should stop saying the recovered laptops and phones as if they are not regular items for existing in 2019. Mention that they scammed people and committed money laundering. Mention their crimes.
Very true.
Let's move on to this next story now. An asset declaration. Remember that yesterday we carried a story that revealed some requirements for the political office holders before they step in and before they're inaugurated to declare their assets. Now, the president has charted a course as President Muhammadu Buhari submitted his asset declaration forms to the Code of Conduct Bureau yesterday, meeting the 28th of May deadline that the Bureau set for public officers to make their end of tenure declaration. Please take us through this story, Gbolahan, especially showing us the properties, the assets declared by the president and us.
Well, this is next level. And 2019, the inauguration is taking place. And according to the laws, anyway, every public officer has to declare their assets before being sworn into office. So our president has declared his assets, and then looking at 2015 to 2019, our president has gotten nothing new. No new house, new cars, not even a single share that is worth 50 kobo has been added to what he has been able to acquire between 2015 and 2019.
No, and he was able to acquire before 2015.
Yeah, as in between 2015 and 2019, there's been nothing added to his assets. And according to 2015, the Punch newspaper reported that Garba Shehu reported that in 2015, the president had 30 million naira in cash. He had 270 cows, 25 sheep, 5 horses, birds, and economic trees. He also had 5 houses in Kaduna, Daura, Kano, and Abuja. And one of those houses in Daura is actually made of mud.
Not one, actually. All the houses in Daura, I said they are all made of mud.
Well, he said the Daura houses were made of mud.
Yes.
So yes, that was made of mud. And he also owned a plot of land in Port Harcourt and Kano, and farms and some orchard and some other cars. So since then, 2015 till date, there's been nothing added. The question I would like to ask is that isn't the president on salary? Because I mean, even if you're earning 100,000 naira, you should be able to keep something away on a monthly basis, even if it is 50,000 naira to buy a single, one naira penny stock or so, or another model somewhere. I mean, you should be able to buy that.
No. I mean, we're saying it from a place of almost as though we own the president.
No, we don't. I know we. No, Valentine, hold on. I know we don't own the president. Hold on, we don't. But what I'm saying is that it's prudent for you to be able to talk about investing and having some sort of assets. It says a lot. When we're talking about someone of this nature, then what are we going to say about our economy?
For 4 years.
Exactly. The asset hasn't appreciated. I mean, let's stop this facade of Mr. Integrity, Mr. Poverty.
But you can't look at obvious things and say, because you earn 100,000, I expect you to say 50,000.
So that's not prudent then. And how do you expect to manage the economy then if you're not able to even
you people
accumulate and save money?
shed light on the governors too and ask them. I'm not defending the president. I'm just saying that let's be objective.
Absolutely.
The governor, their security
you're not allowed
votes.
to
What
speak
are they
again.
doing with their security votes?
You didn't mention the VP. He lost his own money. He announced much more in 2015.
So it's okay anyway. I mean, not a problem. But what I would like to mention is
but
that
you can't mention any more things. We need to move on to the next story.
ICPC now commences investigation into UTME malpractices from New Telegraph. Deveo, please quickly touch on this story.
Well, with one line, basically, the ICPC's history on prosecution is quite weak. And in this case, I really wonder what we do in this country. I think we just like to play. We play too much. Instead of facing the real crimes, now we're looking at those who are committing malpractices in JAM. And that's not to say because they discovered the new innovation where parents sponsor 10 kids inside the exam hall just so that they can assist their one kid who is entering. So ICPC, with all your money, your many lawyers, and your strength, please go after JAM malpractice students and catch them, please, and ensure you bring out some culprits so that we can all learn.
Ugo sent the message on WhatsApp very quickly to round up. He says, if a man cannot add any value to himself within 4 years, should he be our leader? He's not a businessman. And it's
too late. He's going in today in about a few hours.
We still have a petition.
so it's only businessmen that can grow assets.
I'm just saying.
All right.
Unlike a wedding, nobody's going to raise and say if you have anything against him, speak now. The man is going in.
This one, Adedumade, this is somebody's calling you out. Ibrahim said, Adedumade, those are persons that have to earn money to keep acquiring.
Oh, so it's Gbolahan. Says, please, is the declaration of the president going to be made public? And also, it's been made public.
Question too.
Also, the president's son bought a BMW bike that cost millions. Where did the money come from? This celebration of poverty is becoming ridiculous.
Oh wow! Now we know where Buhari's salary went to.
He was looking after his children. All right, Lagos, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation this morning. Thanks to our analysts, Gbolahan and Mr. G Quest, Adedumade at Adedumade.
Have a great day, guys.
And Deveo Okorie. Hoping that you could hopefully join us later, but we'll discuss. All right, Lagos, we'll go on a break. When we come back at 8:15, it'll be time for us to talk sports with Tega in the locker room.
Next level.